A lot of features in games are great quality of life improvements, from skippable cutscenes to colorblind settings, but for every advanced feature that makes games better, there's a dozen that are definitely neat, but are absolutely useless. And that's what we're here to talk about today. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 coolest video game features that are utterly pointless. Number 10, including retro and modern graphics. Proteus. The makers of Proteus said that classic 90s shooters were a big part of the inspiration for their game. With Doom, Quake, and Metroid Prime being the driving force behind your product, it's not hard to imagine that you're dealing with the folks who grew up with pixel sprite graphics. And not just the makers, but certainly also the 2,800 Kickstarter backers who put forth over $100,000 towards its development. A fun feature that Proteus has included is the ability to decide whether or not you want to play the game with modern or retro graphics. You can set the monstrous enemies you'll be gunning down to burst apart as 3D models or to explode into pixelated blood showers from 2D sprites. Now, nothing about this option actually changes the gameplay. The enemies have the same hitboxes, they react the same way, and your weapons act the same whether you're shooting at pixels or polygons. But as a nostalgia-baiting idea that's little more than a skin change, it is so cool to witness and play around with. There's a few games out there with this feature, like the remakes of Secret of Monkey Island and Command & Conquer, as well as Super Mario Maker, but few of them are first-person shooters with such a visceral atmosphere. Number 9, NPC Conversations and Dialogue. Have you ever been walking through a place in a game and suddenly realised that a couple of NPCs are chatting about something that has nothing to do with the grander narrative at hand? Whether it's a woman supposedly screaming at her husband about a store not having anything on the hot plate in Final Fantasy XIV, or radio chatter when you steal a police car in the latest GTA clone, well, if done right, it can simply be what it's meant to be, background noise to help with immersion. Though some of the best stuff occurs when you least expect it, like somebody claiming the maintenance guy is out to get him because he ordered an orange soda and got grape instead in Deus Ex. Now, if a developer gets it wrong, it's really easy to break immersion in this way. I mean, watching guard rotations for a few moments to figure out a stealth plan and hear, "Do you see the game last night?" 6 times, well, that is very rough. But if you slip a little to the left whilst eavesdropping on the president with a directional mic and hear some dude begging for death from his diarrhea, well, that is just classic Kojima gold, baby. Number 8, loading screen minigames. Some of the best minigames or games features are those that you can play, but that don't give the player any additional resources or further the game in any meaningful way. Red Dead Redemption's card games give money, fishing in Fire Emblem Three Houses gives fish obviously, but I'm talking about the fun games that you can play for no mechanical benefit. Bandai Namco has a habit of putting minigames on loading screens that were a fun way to pass the time, which makes it such a shame that they actually patented it for nearly 2 decades so nobody else could do it. And if you've ever played the PS2 voice interaction action game Lifeline, then you know what I'm talking about. When the interface actually worked, you could have a lot of fun with Rio. I mean, yes, there are aliens attacking the space station that you're trapped in for sure, but I know I can guess more state capitals than her this time. Number 7, dedicated fun buttons. The prevailing opinion on why folks play video games is that they are fun, and that's totally regardless of the debate on if games are art, should have easy modes, need more accessibility options, and so on. But you know what's fun but utterly pointless? A dedicated fun button. The quip button from Spider-Man where Peter Parker says a random, often bad joke. The smoking button in Vanquish that is supposed to act like a decoy in a game where you don't actually sit still for very long at all. Ni no Kuni's jump mechanic literally explains it as not being very useful, but being fun to do. One could argue the horn button when you get in a car used to count for this, but newer games have made the horn actually useful, though no less fun. So whether you're honking a horn that shouldn't exist on an Apache helicopter or making Peter Parker utter silly non sequiturs, make sure you mash that extra fun button to your heart's content, even if it doesn't actually do anything. Do it especially if it doesn't do anything. Number 6, character customization in first-person games. To paraphrase Shylock from Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice, if you let us design our own character, will we not spend a whole hour adjusting sliders and toggles? Whether it was giving Shepard purple eyeshadow and black lipstick in Mass Effect, spreading and contracting the eyes of your Sturgian warrior for an hour in Mountain Blade, or bumping the pitch bar higher and lower on your pawn in Dragon's Dogma, we all do it. But all that time spent working on that character kind of makes sense in these games. They are the analog that you'll be living vicariously through for dozens of hours. Even in games like the aforementioned Mass Effect and Mountain Blade, where you go through all of that facial adjustment just to slap a helmet over it, or Dark Souls, where you make a great looking character only to start off as an emaciated corpse. But the worst offender of the useless character creations are in games like Fallout and Cyberpunk 2077. There's so much you can do with your character, and then you just play in a first-person perspective where you don't even get to see your own creation. Doubly so if the cutscenes are also in first person as well. I mean, we all know that we're not going to stop doing it. I mean, how else will we be sure that we got our eyebrows just right? Number 5. Classic weapon pose. Now, we talked a bit about old Doom games in the entry on Proteus, but let's talk about the modern Doom games now. The action-packed demon killing that Doom Guy gets up to has been going on for decades by this point. Now, originally the demon slaying was accompanied by Doom Guy's face in sprite form down in the bottom middle of the screen. Just above it was whatever weapon you had equipped: chainsaw, shotgun, rocket launcher, or even BFG 9000. With graphics that were greatly upgraded for 2020's Doom Eternal, Doom Guy can now carry his weapons in a normal right-handed fashion. But if you're feeling old school, just go to the settings menu and toggle classic weapon pose on. Now your guns will stick out from just under your chest in the middle of the screen. Doesn't affect how they operate, but it is weirdly nostalgic. And also utterly pointless. Number 4. Tiny visual touches. Have you ever been playing a game where there's a subtle visual cue or a stylistic choice that shows that somebody on that team went the extra mile? The first time one of your mechs steps into a puddle in Battletech, and witnessing the water ripple out is surprisingly engrossing. It doesn't do anything. I mean, you can't really use the ripples to see where hidden enemies are coming from in time to do anything because the action is actually turn-based, but it's still there. Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance also had rippling water, which really seems way above its weight class given the fact that it's 20 years old now. Mirrors are a great example of this, especially because of how difficult they are to program in games. You see, unlike in real life where a mirror is just reflecting what is in front of it, a mirror in game basically creates a reflection by reading what is outside of it and re-rendering it backwards in real time. So games that put forth the effect of mirrors, especially older games like Fear, definitely deserve the credit. And there's plenty of examples of these little visual flares. Jagged Alliance had the mouths move in the characters' portraits when they talked, Doom Guy's eyes move around, and I don't think we need to bring up Red Dead Redemption 2's horse nuts in detail again. Number 3. Pistol tricks. Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, a lot can be said for Rockstar's amazing Red Dead Redemption 2 along the lines of this topic, between the aforementioned horse's junk, sweat, reflective eyes, and the fact that Arthur's skin becomes more pallid and his eyes more bloodshot as he feels worse and worse. Whole lists have been dedicated to that game's most unnecessary of features, but you know what else the game has that's just kind of fun for the sake of fun that you likely may have missed? Well, Arthur can twirl his sidearm fancily around before he holsters it. All you gotta do is double tap the holster button whilst holding a single handgun, and Arthur won't just slip it back into his hip. He'll twirl that bad boy around and then pop it back home. Now, in the online mode, there's all kinds of different gun twirlings that you can do, but there's menus and selections and a whole thing about it. But in the single player mode, there's just a little secret gun spin that you can do. Nothing in the game ever tells you about this, it's just something that you've got to find by chance, or from a handy video such as this. You're welcome. Number 2. When everything is interactive. There are so many games with chairs, benches, beds, cushions on the floor, just a whole world of stuff to sit on. Does sitting down ever recover health, unlock crafting opportunities, or give you a bonus of some kind? No, not at all. Except in Okami, but that's just another reason why that game is brilliant. Now, to be fair, some games do make you heal or recover stamina quicker when you sit or lay down. The Getaway even asked you to lean on anything in sight to recover health. But there's a lot of games that absolutely don't. Some of them just help to get amusing shots in photo mode. Some of them are because the developer was like, I made a chair and by God and anime I'm going to make it interactable. A special shout out to games that have multitudes of stuff to sit on for no reason at the press of a button. Or even just offering you a sit down button to pop a squat wherever you are. Middle of a firefight? Sorry Captain, I need a breather. Center divider of a busy highway? Hoo boy, I definitely need to sit down right here. Random barrel in the middle of a forest? Well, that is a lovely seat, isn't it? And number 1, petting or interacting with animals. Now, there's an entire Twitter account dedicating itself to testing whether or not you can pet animals, especially dogs, in video games. Games that didn't have the feature have gone back and patched the ability in to do things like, seriously, it's become that big of a deal. Fire Emblem 3 Houses even included the ability to give treats to the various dogs and cats around the monastery in their DLC. Anything from having a dedicated way to pat a dog's head, let a cat swish between your feet, or whistle to a bird. I mean, sure, petting your horse in Red Dead Redemption 2 gives you a bond with it, but did you really stop petting it when your bond level was full? Of course you didn't, you're not a monster. Why hack streetlights and do crimes when you can ruffle a dog's ears in Watch Dogs 2? And let's be real, how many people spent half of the opening section of Assassin's Creed 3 in New England just feeding pigs and petting various dogs and cats in town? That's right, all of us. And there we go, my friends. Those were the 10 coolest video game features that are utterly pointless. I hope you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Instagram at RetroJ, but the O is a 0, and I hope to see you over there. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Hope you're treating yourself well with love and respect, my friend, because you deserve all of the best things in life, alright? And do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise. You're a massive ledge, and I want you to go out there and smash your life goals today. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.